So you got this attorney general by the name of Eric Holder who's got some problems with the press right now because, I don't know, he had the temerity to allow his Justice Department to investigate the AP and James Rosen over at the Fox News, and he got search warrants for all their phone records, and it's just been a big brouhaha. So he's decided he's going to solve all these problems by having a meeting with the bureau chiefs of major news organizations, and unbelievably...
That's a great idea. That'll handle.
No, unbelievably, it will be off the record.
Oh, no.
Yes, and so there are a lot of news organizations that are now starting to say, I'm not going to go if it's off the record. One of those news organizations is the Huffington Post, and a media reporter for the Huffington Post is Michael Calderone, who's on the line with us right now. So, Michael, just speaking for your own news organization, I know you're not the bureau chief, but why was the decision made at your office?
Right. I mean, our bureau chief, Ryan Grimm, was invited to this, and his basic contention was, a conversation that's about freedom of the press should be open. It should be an open one. It should be open to the press and open to coverage. And he made a joke, I think, to somebody who was interviewing him, where he said, we're not looking to wiretap this meeting, but after the meeting, it would be helpful if the people involved could talk about it. But if it's off the record, then all these bureau chiefs and all these news executives would have to go out afterwards and not be able to say a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's you guys have decided you're not going to go, and who else right now?
The AP, the New York Times, and CNN. And I've put out calls to some of the other networks, and I haven't heard back yet. But I'm sure the other networks are all discussing this because you have a couple outlets like Politico and the Washington Post, which have said that they are going.
All right, and we have heard. We just saw a little thing on Fox News where they're still weighing what they want to do.
It's
right. CNN was just this morning, about an hour or so ago. So I think they're all probably the decisions will come in the next couple hours.
I would just say to you, having been an actual bureau chief at Fox for a while, I'm pretty sure that's a sign. If CNN, the bureau chiefs are talking among themselves. They do this. At least the broadcast bureau chiefs do. I wouldn't be surprised if across the board they decide not to attend.
Michael Calderone, what I'd love Fox News to do is I think they should give James Rosen a temporary promotion and make him acting Washington bureau chief and have him go and represent Fox News at this briefing.
Yeah, or they have Roger Ailes himself come in.
Yeah, I've decided I'm the bureau chief. That's why. Now that would be worth going to, right? Everybody would then say, "No, I've changed my mind. I really want to see that."
Well, yeah, whether it's off the record or on the record, and I think it's a good question about whether to allow this. Some of the arguments from Politico, for instance, they were arguing, saying, we have off-the-record meetings with officials and others to discuss coverage, and, it's not the first time this happened. But I think the argument a lot of people are making is, with all the coverage and all the attention to issues of the rights of journalists and what the tactics the Justice Department has been using, it seems crazy to some others to then say, well, now we're just going to walk in there and not talk about what happened afterwards.
Michael Calderone, I know. Now, listen, you've been really good at following this story from day one, and I've really enjoyed reading your briefings over at the Huffington Post. And one of the messages you're getting from Jay Carney and from the president about this, when they try to pivot this story and spin it a little bit, is they talk about how they embrace the SHIELD law, and some of your writers have actually bought into that line. It seems to me the First Amendment is a pretty darn good SHIELD law right then and there. What is the truth behind this idea of a SHIELD law, and would a SHIELD law really have made a difference in the Associated Press or Fox News James Rosen story?
Right. I mean, it's very interesting that the day after this happened, all of a sudden the White House is talking about the SHIELD law, but wouldn't specifically say that it was tied to all the controversy over the AP. I mean, one of the problems here is that, what the DOJ did in a lot of ways is legal. Now, how they went about doing it is the problem, whether, in the Rosen case, suggesting that he was, possibly guilty of a crime, or, in the AP's case, just they had a subpoena. It's not like they illegally got these phone records. So, I mean, a lot of the problem is what they're doing is legal. And, even under a SHIELD law, there are people who are saying that, with certain exceptions for national security, that in a lot of cases, some of the main issues involving national security in the press, people still might not be covered.
All right, so I got this question because this came up yesterday about what the Attorney General said before the Judiciary Committee, and there were questions about whether or not he has been truthful. and he may well, face some perjury charges down the line. The Judiciary Committee is looking into that. And then when you talk to the White House about it, and you talk to the folks at the Department of Justice, the argument seems to be, well, he really was talking about potential prosecution, and it's very clear that Rosen is not going to be prosecuted. Does that argument hold up, or is that
pass the smell test?
Does that pass the smell test with you?
Well, it's easier to say after the fact that Rosen won't be prosecuted, but when you have a warrant signing off that he's, there's probable cause that he's committed a crime, that would suggest that there's a possibility that you could prosecute him. So, I mean, the problem starts at the beginning. Once you start going down that road and suggesting that reporters like James Rosen could be guilty of a crime, I mean, that's where the problem is. Whether you say after the fact, well, we weren't going to prosecute him anyway, we were just doing that, doing that as a tactic to get the records, even though we had no intention. Whatever the intention was, the problem started at the beginning of that search warrant.
And this is where I don't understand how they can argue this. You can't argue this. You can't have it both ways. If you put down this document and you say we need these documents because he's an aider, abettor, and a co-conspirator and a flight risk, you are suggesting that to that judge that he actually may be the subject of this investigation.
That's certainly the implication.
It's certainly the implication. Then on the other hand, you say, oh, yeah, but we never really intended to prosecute him. Well, you either lied before the Judiciary Committee or you lied to the judge.
Yeah, and at that point in time when he was speaking, if I'm correct, at that point we didn't realize that Holder had also been the one who signed off on the Rosen subpoena.
That's right.
That wasn't something that was revealed until later, because we knew early on that he hadn't signed off on the AP subpoena because he recused himself. But,
right.
At that point in time, he wasn't acknowledging his role in the whole Rosen case. So, it's a worthwhile question to go back and look at what he was saying then versus what we know at this point.
Michael Calderone, we only got 30 seconds, but I got to ask you, I mean, a lot of this I think is interesting because it's Fox News in this case. A lot of the details are about James Rosen and Fox News. What exactly, given the hostile relationship that started pretty early on between this White House and the Fox News, is that a big element of this story?
Yeah, I think it's important to look at the Fox News side of this. The only thing is I can't say that, the Obama administration is only going after Fox News because clearly with the AP and with the unprecedented amount of leak investigations, they're really clamping down across the board. So, I think it's important to look at Fox and the relationship between them and the White House. And it's also interesting to see how a lot of mainstream outlets have been siding with Fox in this fight.
Yeah, very encouraging to see that.
But I wouldn't say that it's only because Fox's hostile relationship that Rosen got looked into, because I do think this administration is looking at a lot of different outlets and has been investigating a lot more than previous administrations.
All right, we'll have to leave it right there. Michael Calderone with Huffington Post, thank you so much for joining us. Please come again.
Great, thanks.